Tell me
It's
about,
okay.
where did you get, you're born where?
My what?
Where were you born?
Oh, where I was born. I was born in Czechoslovakia in the Sudeten German section, which is the northern part of Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
Belonged to the Austrian Republic. No, it wasn't a republic. To Austria.
Hungary.
No, it belonged to Austria when it
Austria.
was under the emperor. And then in 1918 it was divided up and it became Czechoslovakia, Hungary, everybody got separate. So that's where I'm from.
And you were from the Czechoslovakia.
Yes.
And you were, I won't even ask when you were born unless you want to tell me.
No, I don't.
But I'll venture that you weren't there in 1918 when it was divided up. So we'll leave it at that. Well, if you were, it's a compliment.
Just about.
Okay. Your background as far as your mother and father.
Well, my father was a textile engineer, and he was asked to start a textile factory in Budapest, Hungary. So my mother first didn't want to go because she said, oh, there'll be all gypsies, and I don't want to go there. But when she got to see the city, she went twice to check it out. We decided we are moving. So we moved to Budapest, Hungary, and I grew up there, went to school there, and spent over 20 years there. And we stayed there, and the war started, and we were there till the Russian army and the German army were shooting at each other across the river, and then we decided we have to get out, because everybody else, almost everybody left the city then. So we went to Vienna, then we went back to Czechoslovakia, because in Vienna the bombings were just horrendous. So when we got to Czechoslovakia, we thought we would be occupied by the Americans, but no, the Americans stopped. They only occupied a certain part of Czechoslovakia, and we had the Russians, we had the Mongolians, as a matter of fact, who were absolutely horrible. So I tried to get out of there, and I was able to get over the border. Closest big city was Nuremberg. I went to Nuremberg because I could speak English. I got a job at the courthouse, and I met Ray there, and we got married.
Well, that's a nice overview. Let's get focused here. Talk to me about, you just went through a variety of conquerors in Budapest. You talked about the Russians, the Mongolians. What was, and this would have been, how old would you have been at this time?
Well, I was in the 20s.
20s. What was the principal fear factor as to who your leaders would be?
Well, see, Hungary was kind of occupied very late by the Germans. It was one of the last, so the Jews there actually were the last to be taken away too. So we were actually kind of at peace. We had no rations, we had enough food, we had enough of everything. We were not affected by the war until pretty much at the end, when the bombing started. And we had some Russian bombings, we had some British bombings, not so much the Americans. So actually, as I say, we were not affected by the war that badly till the very end.
You told us a story the other night about the fact upon your graduation, your father, as a gift, sent you to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Describe that.
We could travel around. Well, when I graduated from high school, I got a gift from my parents to go to the Berlin Olympics. That was a 1936 Olympics, and while you go to certain events, I chose to see when Jesse Owens was running, and Adolf Hitler came, and he was always up on a balcony, and he had Leni Riefenstahl, his movie-making lady, right next to him. And I saw Adolf, and I saw Jesse Owens run and win, and which was a great disappointment to the Führer, because he really wanted his German athlete to win.
So Adolf Hitler comes into the stadium. Describe that.
Well, you just heard a lot of shouting. I mean, you have to remember the stadiums are huge. That was just like the Olympics that you had now. You could only see him from a distance, and you heard this tremendous shouting, and everybody got up, and they all yelled Heil Hitler, and they all raised their arms. But somebody asked me last night if how it was, whether they kind of pushed the political issue, and I can't say they did. This was really the Olympics, and there were a lot of nations there, and it was a competition of a different kind and peaceful, and there were no problems.
Now, coming from Czechoslovakia, you were part of really the German Republic at that point, right?
No, Austria.
Austria. Okay, but your allegiance is principally from a political perspective on the country.
Well, we were German speaking. Adolf thought we should belong to the Reich, so he invaded the Sudetenland to get it to the Reich, although that area had never belonged to Germany.
And
belonged to Austria.
What did the people feel as that was coming, and then as
well, you know, if everybody yells around you Heil Hitler, you get carried away.
Right.
So the people could only, they thought they would only gain by it. Nobody thought that would be such a terrible war. Because after all, they were a minority in Czechoslovakia, although we were well treated.
Right.
But they were the minority, and they didn't have much to say in the government.
Was your family interested in politics? Were they?
Not really.
Did you
My
kind of
father.
grow up
No.
paying attention to Hitler's rise, or?
No, not at all. My father kept saying, he kept saying, the Jews in the United States will never let Adolf Hitler win. I still remember that.
Yeah.
Were your parents caught up in the, not only the politics, but as the war progressed?
Well, in a way they were, because I got out to Germany, but they stayed behind, and it took me a long time to get them out. I had help from our congressman, and finally they were able to get a visa and they could join us in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a sister too who came out from Hungary at the same time, and she immediately said, I am not going back to Czechoslovakia, I'm going to Austria. And she went to Salzburg because she said, you will get the Russians, I will go where the Americans will be. Somehow people had an idea about the zones already, who would be where. And sure enough, she ended up with
CIA.
the CIA in Salzburg, and she helped with translating and checking out refugees. That was her job.
And there were
And she
a
came
lot
to
of
the
communists
States.
in Salzburg then.
Yeah, I know, and she helped with that.
So, were there any family members who didn't get out? Did you have other-
No, there were only the two of us. I mean, my parents and
Okay.
the two of us.
Okay. And was that unusual? Were you, as a family, were you particularly lucky? Did you know?
No, when we got out, we could still get out. We got out before the Russians took the city over. Now, in the 50s, when the Hungarians were fleeing, that was a different story. Then they were under Russian occupation, and they were shooting up the city, and they really had to, there are several books out about that, they had to kind of sneak over the border and all that. But when we left, we didn't have the Russians yet. They were only fighting.
When you were at Vienna, was that under Nazi rule?
Well, yes, Austria was under the Nazis then, yes.
Help me out here, you history buffs. The Gauleiter of Vienna was who?
I don't know. Baldur von Schirach?
Was that Frank?
No.
Baldur von
Schirach.
Schirach.
I'm sure.
Sure.
No, he was the
What was
youth.
he? Oh, he was the youth
He
leader?
was the youth.
Maybe they didn't have a Gauleiter.
Seisenquart.
Was it Seyssing?
Well, no, he was in Holland.
They may not have had a Gauleiter.
No, they had somebody in there.
They had somebody?
Yeah.
I thought I heard that in one of the presentations, but anyways,
Well, Henry would have known.
he would have known that stuff.
I would have known too if I had my book, my papers.
Would it be in your book?
No, in the other books. The other books.
Oh,
So,
well, can't help you on that.
while you were, before the war ended, were you aware of some of the atrocities that were
No,
going
we
on?
never knew about it.
Mhm.
Never.
Hungary was kind of isolated. We did not know anything about it. And if you asked somebody about it, they all said, can't be true, we can't believe it. Right?
Yep.
They all said that.
Yep.
Nobody knew anything unless you were involved. Now, at the very end, My parents had a Jewish lawyer, and before we were leaving, he was being taken away into a camp. So then we realized what's going on. But that was really right at the end of the war.
Some of the German soldiers, when they came home on leave, would not talk to their parents about what they did. So there was total secrecy about it.
Well,
And the SS, in the SS,
you couldn't do anything about it anyway. If you were trying to do something about it, you ended up yourself
now,
in the camp.
in Germany, the families, every family spied on the other family. That was the trouble in Germany, too.
Did the lawyer survive, or was he killed in the camps?
Did not survive. Some of the Hungarians did survive, but he didn't. He was an elderly man, so.
Now, what about the language, Hungarian language? You don't know the Hungarian language.
No.
It's not like the others.
It's a very difficult language. It's the Urgo-Finnish, what do you call it? Urgo-Finnish descent, or no? Well, no, it belongs to the Urgo-Finnish family of languages, and because they were 300 years under the Turks, so there are some Turkish words in it. They're next to the Czech, so there are some Czech
Words.
Some German. It took me about a year to learn it, but then we were fluent in it.
How many languages do you know, or in your life have you?
Well,
have you
four.
Four. German.
German, Hungarian, English, and French. And we got.
Remember, you told me shorthand.
Well, it's a different language.
Right.
Well, we learned in Europe. They teach you already in grammar school. They teach you 2 languages besides the other. If you go to German school, you get English and French in grammar school already. They're really great with languages, and the countries are so close together. You travel 4 hours, you're in another language-speaking country.
Was there much of a Jewish population in Hungary at the time?
Yes, there was a lot.
Integrated with the Gentile population, or communities?
Oh no, they were our friends, and
Right.
there was never
Very
any.
assimilated.
Yes,
Jewish
yes,
culture.
yes. My best girlfriend was Jewish.
North, south. In the west, by Poland and other countries near Russia, the Jews are together, were together. In the books, that's what they said.
Yeah, that's true. But
with us in the east, they have.
You mean in the
clubs.
west? In the west? In the west. Well, in Germany they were integrated too. I mean, they didn't have special just Jewish sections.
No.
They lived everywhere.
So you're at Nuremberg.
Yes.
Fine, you work your way to Nuremberg. You work your way to Nuremberg. 2 separate paths.
Quick question
Sure.
about that. Ray made a little gesture earlier when you said you got to Nuremberg, the sort of paid bribes gesture, the money
bribe.
gesture.
She over the border.
You had to bribe people to get out.
Right.
Yeah.
Describe that. I mean, what was
Well,
that?
it was very simple. You just gave some of the officials some money, and could you let our daughter through? My father said, and they said yes.
And were these exorbitant bribes, or were these?
Well, I don't remember anymore. It wasn't all that much, but it was enough if you don't have any money left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But otherwise, it was bribery all over.
Right.
She paid her way in.
Yeah, I paid my way in. Let's put it this way. Okay.
So now to Nuremberg. We already know how Ray got to Nuremberg. You got yourself to Nuremberg. How did you find yourself working in the employ of the?
Oh, they were looking for people.
Yes.
They were advertising.
It was the only job going in Nuremberg at the time.
Yeah, they were advertising for
That
people.
or clean the streets.
Yeah.
Nothing else
So
was
I mean,
doing.
they had a tremendous workforce, didn't they? I mean, displaced persons and Germans and all kinds.
And the courthouse was dirty. they had to get it ready for the courthouse, for the courtrooms, and rebuild the courtrooms. And they had and he had to, to rebuild the courtrooms, they got the wood and everything else wherever they could. And the carpeting and the earphones, the special earphones all came from the States by plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When was it that you actually got to Nuremberg?
Oh boy.
40, well, I left
45.
Hungary in 44. 45 or 46?
6.
46 probably.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, 46, that's right. Yeah, because I got there in 45, late.
So the IMT trial had already started?
Yeah,
It was
late.
going on when you arrived? Okay.
Yeah.
When you walk into Nuremberg and you're looking for a job, do you even know that the trial is going on at that time?
Oh, everybody knew that.
Yeah.
That was the big employment center.
Now, did it mean anything to you, though, insofar from a principal or just a source of employment?
No, at this point it was just a job. You went through so much. You lost everything in Hungary, and you went through all the bombings, and you were kind of drained. You really, all you wanted to do is get a job and have something to eat and a place to sleep.
Well, what about eating? You work in the courthouse and they gave you some food, but
Yes.
not too much of it.
Yes.
Now, what did you have? Your life in a suitcase?
Kind of,
One.
yes.
Okay. And had you traveled
Several
on
suitcases.
foot? Had you been able to take trains?
No trains.
Trains.
Trains, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had trains going. Most of the people lived a little bit outside the city because the city was destroyed, so I took a train ride in every day.
In Germany, when they had a raid and all the tracks were uprooted and they rebuilt them immediately. The trains always going.
Trains. Well, that was the only way of transportation. There was no gasoline.
No gasoline.
There were no private cars except the army.
And your job was what?
Well, there were engineers there. There was a chief engineer, and I became his secretary. And I was the go-between between the German, well, the carpenters, plumbers, whatever they had. They were rebuilding the courthouse. It had one hit, right?
Yeah, one hit.
One bomb hit, so
bomb.
they had to rebuild the courthouse and repair it. And for that they used...
Make it bigger.
Yeah, and for that they used German labor, but they had American engineers doing it, they planned it. So I was a translator between the go-between between them. And once they finished the courthouse, I worked for U.S. Information Service.
Yeah.
You said the German labor was displaced persons.
No, not necessarily. They were regular German
In Nuremberg.
laborers.
It wasn't POW labor.
No.
Not that,
Right,
no.
right.
Well, the guards at one point then were
Well,
displaced, right,
yes.
later?
That was later. For
The guards were displaced, but not, no, they had just German workmen.
So the job gets done, and then you work for U.S. Information?
Yes.
What did that mean?
Well, they were... what
It's
did
the
we do,
United States-
actually?
United States
United States,
information.
whatever they do.
Mostly information.
They give
and a lot of
information
pictures.
out. Yeah.
So that's
This-
where you see a young photographer.
No, I was already, I had met Reason already. That was,
Early.
after the courtroom was built, that job of mine was over, and then I got the job of the U.S. Information Service. But by then, we were already planning to get married, and I was coming, that was only at the end, in between.
Okay, well, how'd you meet?
Well, Ray used to come in the office and look for supplies because he
All
was
the time.
fixing the dark room, and God, I always had to get a file from underneath or
She had
something.
good legs.
So we just started going out, starting dating, and we got engaged. And well, shall I tell them about this Warburg thing?
Sure.
Yes.
One of
Because I was a displaced person.
Yes, yeah.
They didn't know under what quota or whether I would have to be under a quota, because you couldn't come to the United States just like that and, walk in. And although I was married to an American, there was a question about getting me into the States. So there was a War Bride Act, but it expired like the end of 1948, and Ray was told to send me over before that War Bride Act expires, because they were not sure if Congress would extend it. So I left and came to the United States alone, and he stayed on for the other trials, and I stayed with his parents. But it was no problem because I spoke English.
I wanted to stay till the end of the trial, which was ending. 12 trials were going on, and it was at the same time as the last trial. So I stayed on for another 6 months, and they said, come home, come home, come home.
Yeah, his mother kept saying, you better come home now, your wife is here, you better come home. So finally he came home.
And that was when? When did you actually?
49.
49?
Yeah.
End of 49, summer?
I don't remember.
The sea was rough.
Well, I came
Yeah,
over.
you came.
I came over in December because I had to get in before December 31st, and it was one of the worst weathers they had, and everybody was sick, even the stewards. Oh, it was terrible, and it took quite long. What was the name of that ship? It was a captured.
No, captured.
Wasn't it the ship that belonged to the Germans?
No, the American ship.
I don't know anymore.
Oh boy.
Well, anyway, it was a pretty good sized ship, but it was still tossed around like mad. So you must have come in the fall too, or winter
In the
then
fall,
too, if you
but-
had bad
So that
weather.
would be 9-10 months maybe between you getting over.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all in my filing cabinet.
Ray, when you come back and people say that in Holyoke, Massachusetts, you come back and they ask you where you've been, and you say, I've been in Nuremberg. What have you been doing? I've been a photographer there.
Oh, they know it. They know it.
But did Nuremberg mean much at the time in 1949 when you came back?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I had, when I opened the store, I was at Kodak for a week, and I met the president of Eastman Kodak Company, and they made some pictures for me that I had taken, and by 4 feet by 6 feet, and it went up near the ceiling, all along my store, and it was a highlight. And Mr. McGee's daughter, that's the president at the time of Eastman Kodak, his daughter was going to Mount Holyoke College right next door.
Yeah.
So he came into the store and visited with me. God.
But he was asking whether people in Holyoke were impressed by you being in Nuremberg and all that.
People would come
I
into the
don't
shop
think.
and see that.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
And what kind of reactions?
Well, they knew I had been
They
in
knew you'd been
Nuremberg,
there.
yeah.
You were famous in Holyoke.
I don't
Little
think they
famous.
knew how important the trial was.
Yeah, I'll say I am not famous in Holyoke. I am famous back in Nuremberg.
In Jamestown, New York, I'm
Yeah, now again I'm in Jamestown, New York. Yes. God.
Can we go? Let's go back into the courtroom. Do you remember seeing Jackson? Did you have
I wasn't in the courtroom very much.
Yeah.
I had to work with my
Right.
German laborers. I could go in, I got a pass, and certain events I went in, but I don't think I saw Jackson. I'm sorry, but I didn't.
Right. But you heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I think I went in when Goering was speaking. Some of them.
He was the big.
Yeah, and
The big
everybody
show.
wanted to hear him.
Everybody wanted to see Goering and Hess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the kind of courthouse buzz about Jackson? I mean, he was the big guy. Was he a good guy?
You would know more than
Yeah.
I would know
Yeah.
that.
He was the big man.
Uh-huh.
He was the boss. He gave all the orders to make the trial even before the trial started, because in putting the The defendants were told they were criminals, they were war criminals, but they didn't, the defendants didn't care about it. They heard about it, but they didn't care. Only at Nuremberg did they care. Yeah.
Margaret, from your perception, was he the heroic figure of the trial, or were the judges bigger?
No.
Or were they all just big shots and you had
As
your
far as I
job
was
to do?
concerned, they were all just big shots who did the
Right.
trial.
Okay.
But we didn't call them big shots.
No.
No. They just did their job.
Like all of you, yes.
Was there, the few times that you went into the court and you looked over at the dock and saw the 21 defendants, was there any impression that you had looking at some?
They didn't look like they did
No.
before.
No.
They were
Just
just
in uniform.
poor miserable men at that point.
Yep. On POW rations
Yep,
in a
tin can.
steel can, a mess can, in a mess
Mess
can.
can.
And they got a spoon and a knife.
Maybe, I don't know if they got did they get a knife?
Yeah, but I don't think they got a fork.
If they got a knife, it would be amazing.
Well,
I don't even know if
We
they,
don't know yet. Yeah.
we are not sure if they got,
well, maybe they
maybe they
did a
didn't.
knife, but
Well, maybe it was not a sharp knife.
yeah, like a butter knife.
Tough night.
I remember those tough nights.
As you had children and
Yeah.
they were growing up.
Yeah.
Only two.
Right.
Only
Well,
two.
I've got only two. That's
enough.
That's a
enough.
handful. I
Well,
appreciate two. They have three. So, how did you explain this Nuremberg? You know, you've been part of this
Well,
thing.
They were not all that interested
No.
in it, but now I have a granddaughter who is absolutely adamant that I
It
should
was-
write my life story. So the next generation is more interested
Yeah.
than my girls were.
You know, she's right.
Yep.
She's absolutely right.
She's after me all the time. She's in Washington right now. She's going to be a lawyer, and she wants me to, so I promised I will do it
Good.
sometime.
Good.
We can roll out that book here.
Here.
We can do it right here. Well, it's important. I think that's exceedingly important. And what we find, at least in our families and other people who've been here, it's the grandchildren.
Yes. Yep.
It's very interesting. I found that very interesting that all of a sudden she's the
Well,
one who is really
Our children.
asking me questions, and
Our children were busy finding a job and getting married and making life. Now the grandchildren have got it easy, and they want to know where we came from, what we were doing then, and
well, it's good.
because of our background.
That's
Now-
part of appreciating
Yeah.
how you've got
Now,
it easier than your parents and
When
grandparents.
I was going to high school,
Right.
they asked me, "What do you want to be?" I don't know. What am I going to be? I didn't say anything. I didn't know I was going to be a photographer. I didn't know I was going overseas.
Right.
I never thought I would travel as much as I did.
Right.
So you can blame Roosevelt. You can blame in Hawaii there the sinking of the ship there.
Right.
Yeah, the
Pearl
Pearl
Harbor.
Harbor. I know, Pearl Harbor. And one thing and another,
Life happens.
life happens, and we've been to Normandy, we've been to Hawaii to see Pearl Harbor.
Right.
It's part of our life now.
No, it's a great
Yeah.
story. Now, you were born and raised in Holyoke?
Yep, yep.
And were your parents from Holyoke?
No, from Italy.
Okay.
Both of them from Italy.
When did they come over?
About 1918. Soon
Okay.
as, my father came over first, and my mother came over about 2 years later, after he earned a few bucks
Okay.
to send for her.
Right.
And they all came by ship.
Right.
There was no airplanes then.
Did they have children in Italy?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, they were married
In
in
the
New
States.
York
Okay.
City.
But they had known each other in Italy?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, they were engaged.
They were engaged.
Okay.
yes.
And where in Italy were they from?
On the opposite side of Rome,
Okay.
Cage,
The Adriatic.
Adriatic,
Calabria?
Pescara.
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 On the ocean.
Right, which means
My-
fish,
my- my
right?
mother-
Pescara.
Yes. My
Okay.
mother would always go in the ocean swimming in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a place you've gone back to?
Once.
Okay.
Once. I've been in Italy several times, but I only visited what you call my family once,
Right.
and it's over the mountains.
Right.
Boy, what
Do
a
you
trip.
have uncles or cousins or?
I have them, but I've
keep
lost
no
them a
more
long time
contact.
ago.
Right.
God, I'm very independent.
Right. No, it's a wonderful story, the path from the Sudetenland,
Yeah.
your family
No,
getting to Holyoke.
It wasn't very much of a pass, but you've made it in Jamestown by your interviews here. Yeah.
It's,
Well, everybody has an interesting story of
Yeah.
some form.
Yeah.
And you have more than an interesting
Well,
story.
yeah, brought it out.
Now, I just back on your parents. The reason they came to the United States, was that a period of time when Mussolini was starting to gather up?
No.
Before, wasn't it?
Before, way before. Now, the war. United States, everybody had no job. In Japan, Japanese had no jobs. In Italy, the Italians had no jobs. In Germany, Hitler had no job for them. So they had to do something. And the thing was that all the leaders, except Roosevelt, were all on a war footing basis. And the United States, to protect itself, had to get into it. They were going to help Britain. But then the Japanese came, and we all got in a war. And that was the end of it. That was the end of it.
But your father,
It changed everybody's life.
your father came to the States to
To work.
There were an awful lot of people from Europe. They all thought they'll make millions when they come to the United
Yeah.
States. That was
Now,
how did he
impression.
get to Holyoke? Did he have
he
somebody
had a
from his
friend.
town?
I guess he had a friend, and he came to Holyoke.
Right.
And then he opened up what we call a fruit business.
Okay.
It had fruit and ice cream. He made his own ice cream. He made some of his own candy.
Right.
In those days, people made things like that.
Right.
And he worked early in the morning till late at night. Boy, yeah. Christmas Day, he was home.
Did he instill in you an interest in photography?
No.
No?
No. He all he had was, my mother had a box camera.
But you had a teacher though in school.
In high school, I had we were getting 16 millimeter films, and we had a club, and we learned how to project thread the projector and everything else. One thing led to another, and I got a camera, got a little busy that way. And for a couple of years, I worked in the high school. After graduation, I worked there. Oh, the WPA, Works Progress Administration. Oh, Christ, yes. You don't know about that.
I love it about the WPA.
So what did you do for the WPA? What they have you doing? You worked where?
In the high school, doing work around the photography business.
Okay.
You showed films.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's terrific.
I have maybe a random question, but it just occurred to me. Sacco and Vanzetti,
Yeah,
was that
before
your parents
me.
were, no,
Yeah.
before you, but for your parents? Was that
It was, but it was only news.
But it's
it
in
was
the
the-
area. It's
yes,
in the area.
yeah.
It's Italians. It's Massachusetts.
And
It's
one of the judges, Judge Musmano
Right.
from Pittsburgh,
Right.
was at that trial as a
Right,
lawyer.
that's right, that's
As a
right.
lawyer. Yep.
Did you ever talk to him about that?
Oh, yes. Musmano and myself were friends. I worked for him
Right.
on the side.
Doing what?
There was no,
Pictures.
Personal photos?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
pictures.
that was never brought out that Musmano actually interviewed people to find out if Hitler was still alive.
Alive.
And you went with him and took pictures of those people.
Yeah, and he wrote a book. I think he wrote 7 books. I think he never slept at night.
He wanted to be sure that
He
Hitler
had
was killed.
energy, more energy than you have.
So you traveled around with him,
Yes.
interviewing people?
Yes, on weekends.
Uh-huh.
On weekends, like Lenny Riefenstahl. He interviewed all of them.
And the sister of Eva Braun.
Eva Braun's, her
Was her
sister
sister-
and her parents.
Eva Braun's sister.
Yeah.
I was surprised that that was not brought out at all. It was,
Yeah.
Right. What happened to all those photographs?
What happened?
You were there taking pictures of
I have
Letty
them.
Riefenstahl,
Yeah, I have them.
Eva Braun's sister.
I have them. I have them.
That's a collection.
Yeah.
Have you ever published any of those?
No. God.
You know, Lenny Riefenstahl just had her 100th birthday.
Yep.
she's still working.
She's still working?
But she never answered my letter.
Oh, you did? You've written to her?
Yeah, I've written to her. God.
She's very
The Hitler's secretary just died about 2 or 3 months ago.
Right, Frau Jungi.
Frau Jungi.
Right.
And she was in Munich. And we visited her, and we visited
Frau Jodl.
Frau Jodl. She was old. Boy. God.
Now, was there a serious concern that Hitler had somehow escaped?
Well, Musmano seemed to, Musmano
wanted to make sure.
wanted to be sure that
They had no body. Nobody.
Right.
Body. No body.
Right.
And Musmano, did he, you may have mentioned it, did he put that in a book form, his findings?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote.
I don't know what the title of it is.
He wrote German book. His book was published in German and English.
What's the title of it? We
Oh
don't know.
God, 10 Days to Die.
Oh, yeah.
10 Days to Die. Yeah.
That's his
And
book.
then the other book was.
You should try to get hold of that,
Yeah,
John.
it's,
Maybe in a-
Right.
But it's out of print now.
Right.
But around here there are bookshops,
Right.
old bookshops.
Right.
You know.
There's one right up
Yeah,
by Raleigh.
yeah.
Get on the internet too, and you
Yeah,
can
the
find
internet
it.
there.
And
Well, if you don't find it, don't we have it? We can loan it to him.
we can loan it, but I won't give it to him.
No.
No, we can loan it to you if you don't find it.
And he
I'm
also
honored to get library privileges. I won't try and steal your books.
You better start thinking about giving your library to us.
Right.
And he has another book on the Ersatzgruppen, the
I've got that one, yeah.
SS.
Eichmann,
Eichmann,
Commandos.
yes,
It's called
yes.
Eichmann's Commandos, yeah.
That's by Musmano also.
Right.
Yeah, and he did a movie on.
He did 10 Days to Die. There was a movie out. wasn't
Yeah,
there?
he did the movie in Berlin when the Germans were evacuating and they drowned all the people in the subways. Most
Which-
people don't know about that story and all the bodies down there.
Which book is that? Is that in 10
No.
Days to Die?
No,
It's another,
no.
I mean,
I don't know where it is.
another movie?
I saw the pictures of it.
Who drowned them?
The Germans.
Their own people?
The SS,
Yes,
probably.
sure. They don't care. They hung people. The Germans hung people from the lamppost. The soldiers who were trying to get home. They didn't have the right papers. The SS hung them.
Yeah, it was not
Sure.
the army, it was the SS who did
You
that.
said you two went to meet with Frau Jodl?
Yes, yeah. We had dinner with her, lunch with her.
How many years after
Oh,
Nuremberg was
God.
that?
Oh, a long time. It was 10 or 15 years from now. 10 years ago now.
Just about.
Yeah.
So that would be like 40 years after.
Yeah.
And had you met her?
Oh, yes, at Nuremberg.
At
Yeah,
Nuremberg.
sure.
And you'd stayed in touch with her?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, a little touch.
A little touch.
I had to add the address.
Okay. Okay.
And when we went to Munich, I looked her up. She's right downtown.
Yeah, but she's not alive
In
anymore.
in the Hitler days, a lot of people who worked for Hitler worked in Munich, and the rallies were held in Nuremberg because of the stadiums up there.
What did somebody like Frau Jodl think of Nuremberg?
She was
Right.
very bitter. She was very bitter because her husband was military, and she says, all right, if he has to be killed, but why hang him? Why couldn't they shoot him?
Soldiers don't hang.
Right, right.
So she was very, very upset over that, and she
But she was upset about the method, not as
Yes.
much about the prosecution.
well, she also
She didn't
thought
tell
that
us.
he shouldn't have been killed at all, but if he had to be,
I see.
and she buried his hat, right?
Yes.
She
Oh,
took
yes. His hat.
his hat and buried it in the family plot. They were a
On the island.
they were
down in
a
the-
very well-known, noble family in Germany. Like a lot of the military were.
And that was all she had, was a hat? So that
Yes. Yeah. That's all she got from him. God. Remember everything.
You know, I can tell that they've got 100 more stories, but we're not asking the right questions. What other extraordinary
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, I know. Because the fact that you're writing a story tells us we
I
just.
I would like to advise the interviewers that I need to get him up to the other room.
Oh, you're right, okay.
Another room?
You have to sign more things, I
Sign up
think.
there in the auditorium.
Yeah, you-
Oh, in the auditorium.
You can't get out of town until those 20%.
Once you've done that, we can take you to lunch and head for Buffalo.
Lunch again? Lunch again?
Hey, this
No.
has just been
This is
fantastic. We can't thank you enough for coming here.
You're very
This
welcome.
has just been terrific. And I really do hope somehow you publish or make available those pictures you took with Masmano on that tour. I gotta believe those are just, not only, certainly one of a kind, but unique and important.
I didn't know you were interested in Masmano.
Well,
Now,
let me tell you
when
what,
I go home.
There's Pennsylvania connection.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to law school in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and so that name was not unknown to me.
Yeah.
And
We can't get to some.
That's part of this area. That's,
Yeah.
you know, the Jamestown.
and he's, George Jackson's from Pennsylvania.
Yes. God.
And
In the
so-
corner.
Yeah, this part. But Masmano was when I went to law school, I knew the name, never thought to track him down.
Yeah, he was judge, he became Justice Masmano.
Right, on
In
the Supreme,
in
the Supreme Court.
Pittsburgh,
Right, right.
yeah.
I remember-
He came to Boston once in a while.
He came to see your mother. I still
Oh,
remember that.
yes.
I was
Yes.
I was alone in Holyoke, living with his parents, and all of a sudden this staff car pulls up, and Judge Masmano gets out.
You know
and
why? Because
he had something.
came from Nuremberg, he went home, but he stopped in his plane
Westover.
at Westover Air Force Base. Now, Westover and Holyoke are
Very
together.
close.
So he had enough power to get them in a plane, in a car, from Westover to my mother's house, and he went upstairs.
And he didn't know that it would be 5 stories and no elevator. I still remember that. I said to myself, oh, poor judge. He had to climb 5 stories. He brought a gift or something for your mother. I still it's funny, I remember that as if it happened yesterday.
So that was during that period where you were.
When I was alone and Ray was still away. All right, you better go. I can't get this thing off.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
And Masmano died when? What was his?
young.
Yeah, he died very young.
Well,
I don't get caught in this. Okay, that's
In the 1960s?
50s or 60s.
Right.
That's kind of old.
No.
But he
never married.
he overworked himself. I
Yeah.
think. He never slept. He worked too